There were two men living in the same apartment building, same city, same rising prices, same economy, same 24 hours every day. But somehow, their lives felt completely different. On the 14th floor lived Adrian Cole, 32 years old, corporate job, good salary, stylish clothes, newest iPhone, luxury gym membership. Instagram looked perfect. Every weekend, new cafe, new restaurant, new shoes, new trip, new upgrade. From the outside, Adrian looked successful, but almost every night he couldn't sleep because behind the photos, he was quietly falling apart. Credit card debt, car payments, subscriptions he forgot existed, constant anxiety, and a terrifying feeling that followed him everywhere. I'm running out of time. One night, Adrian woke up at 3:17 a.m., not because of noise, not because of nightmares, but because his brain wouldn't stop calculating bills. The room was dark. Only the blue light from his phone filled the apartment. And while lying there exhausted, he opened social media again. A former classmate had just posted engagement photos in Italy. Thousands of likes, hundreds of comments, couple goals. So proud of you. You made it. Adrian stared silently at the screen while eating cold takeout alone in bed, and suddenly, his apartment felt painfully quiet. Meanwhile, on the 7th floor lived Victor Hale. Older phone, simple clothes, small apartment, no luxury lifestyle, no flashy vacations, no expensive watch. Yet somehow, Victor always looked calm. His savings could cover over a year of living expenses. He invested consistently, rarely bought things impulsively, and strangely, he never looked stressed. One evening, Adrian finally asked him something, a question he had secretly been asking himself for years. How are you so calm when you make less money than me? Victor smiled softly, then said something Adrian would never forget. Because I stopped racing people who never cared about me. Silence. And in that moment, something inside Adrian shifted. Maybe the reason he always felt behind had nothing to do with success. Maybe he had been trapped inside an invisible race his entire life. A race nobody officially agreed to join, but somehow, almost everyone was running. And the worst part, no matter how fast people ran, they still felt late. Nobody teaches you this when you're young, but modern life quietly trains people to feel incomplete, not through violence, not through force, but through comparison, because comparison creates dissatisfaction, and dissatisfaction creates consumption. Think about it. Every single morning, millions of people wake up and instantly see someone doing better than them. Someone younger, making more money. Someone buying a house. Someone getting married. Someone traveling the world. Someone becoming successful faster. And slowly, without realizing it, people begin measuring their lives against strangers, not reality. Strangers. That's why people today feel exhausted, even when nothing terrible is happening. Because psychologically, their nervous system believes they are losing a race against everyone else's highlight reel. And Adrian was trapped inside it. Every scroll made him feel late. Every success story made him feel smaller. Every promotion someone else received felt like proof that he was failing, even though objectively, his life was okay. But comparison destroys your ability to feel enough, because there will always be someone ahead, more successful, more attractive, more disciplined, more wealthy, more admired. And if your self-worth depends on catching up, you will never rest, because the finish line keeps moving. Everywhere Adrian looked, the world whispered the same message. You are not enough yet. Not rich enough. Not successful enough. Not productive enough. Not impressive enough. And once people believe that, they become easier to sell to, easier to manipulate, easier to control, because insecure people consume more. And Adrian still hadn't realized the most dangerous part yet. Comparison wasn't only stealing his peace, it was quietly controlling his decisions. A few weeks later, Adrian started noticing patterns everywhere. At restaurants, at work, on social media, people constantly performing success, not experiencing it, performing it. And once he noticed it, he couldn't unsee it anymore. The luxury dinners people secretly couldn't afford, the motivational posts from burned-out workers, the fake confidence, the carefully edited lifestyles. Everyone looked okay online, but privately, many were anxious, exhausted, financially stretched, emotionally lost, and still trying to maintain appearances. One Friday evening, Adrian attended a reunion with former classmates. Someone had just bought a second property, another launched a startup, another got engaged. Everyone looked successful, everyone looked ahead. Meanwhile, Adrian smiled politely, while quietly wondering if he was the only person in the room falling apart. At one point, someone asked him, "So what's new with you?" And for a second, his mind went blank, because he suddenly realized he had spent years trying to look successful without ever asking himself if he was actually happy. So he smiled, took another sip of his drink, and said the same lie millions of people say every day: "Yeah, things are good," even though deep down, he felt completely lost. Later that night, Adrian sat alone inside a rideshare, staring out the window. City lights blurred across the glass, and for the first time, he admitted something painful to himself. Part of him hated comparison, but another part was addicted to it, because comparison gave him direction, even if it was destroying him. One Saturday afternoon, Adrian visited Victor again. The apartment was quiet, simple. No giant television, no luxury furniture, no designer decor. Yet somehow, the place felt peaceful, and Adrian noticed something strange. Victor wasn't constantly checking his phone. He wasn't multitasking. He wasn't rushing. He looked present, calm, alive. Eventually, Adrian asked, "Don't you ever feel behind?" Victor laughed softly. Behind who? That question hit Adrian harder than expected, because for the first time, he realized something uncomfortable. He didn't even know who he was trying to impress anymore. Former classmates, co-workers, people online, society, or maybe a younger version of himself who imagined life would look different by now. Victor then said something even deeper. "Most people don't actually want freedom." Adrian frowned. "What do you mean?" "They want validation, silence." And suddenly, everything started making sense. The expensive purchases, the endless upgrades, the fake productivity, the pressure to appear successful, the obsession with looking important. Most people weren't building lives they truly loved. One night, Adrian opened his banking app. $42 left before payday. Silence. Then 5 seconds later, he opened Instagram. Someone his age had just posted, "Finally bought my dream car." Thousands of likes, fire emojis, celebration comments, and suddenly, Adrian felt embarrassed by his own life. Not because his life was terrible, but because comparison distorted his reality. Then he noticed something disturbing. Every time he felt insecure, he spent money. Not because he needed something, because he needed emotional relief, a better jacket, a newer phone, a nicer dinner, a temporary feeling of progress. But the feeling never lasted, because emotional spending is endless. The moment comparison becomes emotional, logic disappears. And this is where millions of people get trapped for years, trying to buy confidence, trying to buy status, trying to buy proof that they matter. Victor once explained it perfectly. If your identity depends on external progress, you'll always feel unstable, because external progress constantly changes. There will always be someone richer, smarter, younger, more attractive, further ahead. But internal peace, that's different. That doesn't depend on competition. One evening, Adrian almost bought another luxury watch online. Price, $1,280. Cursor hovering over, complete purchase. For a moment, he imagined posting it online. People noticing, people reacting, people thinking he was successful. Then suddenly, he heard Victor's voice inside his head. Most people don't want freedom. They want validation. Silence. Adrian slowly leaned back in his chair, and for the first time in years, buying something no longer felt exciting. It felt exhausting. That terrified him, because he realized something deeper. He had spent years chasing milestones that didn't even belong to him. The expensive lifestyle, the constant upgrades, the pressure to keep up. None of it had actually made him peaceful, only tired. Adrian then realized something terrifying. He had spent years trying to impress people who barely remembered him 5 minutes later, and suddenly, the race started looking meaningless. Slowly, Adrian began changing small things. He stopped checking social media every morning. He deleted shopping apps, unfollowed people who constantly triggered insecurity, started walking home without headphones, started sitting in silence again, and strangely, life became quieter. Not boring, quieter. The anxiety slowly faded. He slept better, spent less, thought more clearly, and for the first time in years, he stopped feeling like life was escaping him. One afternoon, Adrian sat inside a cafe, watching people walk past the window. Designer bags, luxury watches, expensive sneakers. Everyone looked important. Everyone looked busy. Everyone looked like they were becoming someone. And for a second, he felt that familiar pressure again. Then suddenly, a strange thought entered his mind. What if most people are just terrified of feeling ordinary? That thought stayed with him all day, because maybe the world wasn't filled with confident, successful people. Maybe it was filled with anxious people, trying very hard to look successful. And once Adrian saw that, comparison slowly lost. One evening, Adrian asked Victor one final question. So, what's the secret? Victor smiled quietly, then looked out the window. There is no universal timeline for life. Some people marry at 25, others at 45. Some become wealthy early, others much later. Some discover purpose young, others after years of confusion. But most suffering begins when people believe life must happen on schedule. Because once you believe you're late, you stop appreciating where you already are. And ironically, that desperation often creates worse decisions. Rushed careers, rushed relationships, rushed spending, rushed lives, all because people are terrified of falling behind. The race never truly ends. There will always be someone younger, richer, faster, more admired. That's why people who build their identity around comparison eventually collapse from exhaustion, because chasing enough inside a world designed to keep you insecure is a battle nobody wins. And maybe real freedom begins the moment you quietly step off the track. So this week, try something different. Spend one full day without comparing your life to anyone online. No timelines, no pressure, no invisible competition. And ask yourself honestly, what do I actually want? Not what looks impressive, not what society expects. What genuinely brings peace into your life. Because most people spend their entire lives chasing milestones without realizing those dreams were never truly theirs. And remember this, some people spend their entire lives upgrading their lifestyle while quietly downgrading their peace. The people who look the most ahead are not always the happiest. Sometimes, the calmest person in the room is simply the one who finally stopped racing. If this story spoke to you, subscribe for more powerful stories about money, psychology, and modern life. And watch the next video, how social media quietly